Hello everybody, we are live for another live stream. Hopefully all of you are doing well. Great to see you in chat, Tanme. Hopefully all of you in chat are doing well. I'll wait for the first of you guys to get in. We are back for another live stream again. I'm doing these daily streams, hopefully all of you enjoy them. And today's video will be an interesting one because it's a new idea. So hopefully you guys like it, and the concept is very simple. But before I go into the video idea, I want to roll the intro and then I'll see you guys in a few seconds and we'll go over the video. So stay tuned and I'll see you guys right then. Okay then, so the idea is pretty simple. I've got about 7 scenarios here, or I should say rather than scenarios, 7 driver comparisons. We have driver A and driver B, and pretty simple. All of you guys in chat, I want you to see 2 drivers. Well, all of you in chat will see 2 drivers, and I will ask you guys in chat who you think has had the better season, who's been more consistent, and who's overall been better this season. I want to stress this is not a whole career thing. This is just based on this year. Which of the 2 drivers that I present to you has performed better? How are we going to do this? I'll have polls in chat for all of you to vote in, and then of course I'll give my own kind of opinions throughout the stream. So our first comparison, our first little versus series, if you will, is this one. Sainz versus Russell. Who do you think has performed better this season? Who has had the better 2021 season? So in chat, I'll leave a poll for all of you in chat. And it'll just be simply Sainz, Russell, and who's had the better 2021 season. And the kind of aim of this is just to kind of have some interaction, see what you guys think, but also guys, vote in chat, but also give your thoughts, give your opinions, explain why you think one has had a better year than the other. Because to me, Russell and Sainz is an interesting one. Russell, of course, an amazing podium, leading Williams again to some very, very good results. But Sainz, the man who many wrote off in February, March, as someone who'd be a number 2, as someone who'd just be kind of a backup, a Barrichello-esque driver compared to Leclerc. But as we speak, he leads Leclerc in the standings. A very good season, very consistent. So it's a very good combination here. In chat, Curtis says, "For Master Plan, hello mate." Thick Counts says Sainz. Mukund, Adela say Russell, Luke says a hard one, and to be fair, I think it's very hard because they're very contrasting. 24 votes already, and 60% say Sainz, 40% say Russell. Guys in chat, please leave your kind of reasoning, your rationale, why you think one's better than the other. And of course, guys, if you're new, please do subscribe to the channel. Curtis says Sainz is outscoring Leclerc. Animated Russell says Russell. Sorry, Animated Joel says Russell. It's very close, and Luke makes a good point. I think in terms of mistakes, Sainz has had quite a few errors this year, whether it's Hungary in qualifying or Italy before the race. He's had a few moments, even Baku in the race when he locked up. He has had a few hairy moments. With that said, what I would say about Sainz is, he has better competition. Beating Leclerc is far, far harder than beating Nicholas Latifi. So in that regard, to me, from just a purely kind of teammate or inter-team perspective, what Carlos has done eclipses what Russell has done. With that said, though, you could argue that Russell's performances in that car have been beyond its capabilities. What I honestly do believe is that whilst the Williams isn't the best car, it's not terrible. It's obviously faster than the Haas, but I think in wet conditions, they clearly have a very good wet setup to just kind of help their drivers, because realistically, Latifi and Russell, whenever it rains, are always there. So I'm going to presume here, and I think that I wrote this in several places, that Williams set up their cars when there's a chance of rain for wet setups, which I think is why Russell, etc. have been very good in the wet. So it's very close, guys. Honestly, I'm intrigued to see all your thoughts. Omega VS Prime says, Sainz has had a very impressive first season at Ferrari. Indeed, he has. Thick Count says Russell has made more mistakes than Carlos, but Carlos has had more hero moments, even though Russell has achieved a lot. Friviously, I think that's how you say your name. He says, once machinery is equal, i.e. rain, Russell bangs. And that's a very good point, mate. But what I would say, and as I've said before, Williams do set up their cars in the basically with high downforce for the wet. Whilst I think other teams, especially those in the midfield and further up the front, they've got dry setups because they aren't willing to take that risk if it is dry. But Williams, I think, have been able to maximise those wet qualifyings and those wet Grand Prix because of their setup. So as Russell is good, I think that him being top 3 in 2 wet qualifyings indicates that Williams have got a very good wet setup. So the question is, I'm going to end the poll now, guys. Thank you so much for voting and commenting. it was 51% Russell, 49% Sainz. Very, very close there. And it's pretty impossible really to separate the two. But I'm going to personally say that the better year has been Carlos Sainz. And as you can see there, 50-50 was very close. I'm just going to say Sainz purely because of his teammate. And of course, Russell can't help that his teammate is Latifi, but at the same time, Carlos Sainz at a new team, beating Charles Leclerc in terms of points, very impressive. Especially when you consider that last season, Vettel in that number 2 or in that second Ferrari struggled tremendously. So I'm going to say that it was that Sainz probably has had a slightly more impressive season than Russell, but it's very, very close, very close. By the way, guys, thank you so much for watching so far. If you're new, please do subscribe. And yeah, we're going to go to our next versus, or our next debate, which is Alonso versus Sebastian Vettel. Controversy is what I go for on this channel, or I would say just things which are a bit more contested. So in chat, I want to see you, all of your opinions, your thoughts as I get the poll ready. Who has had the better season? And by the way, guys, first of all, just quickly before I continue, this is all my opinion. This is all about expressing an opinion respectfully and not being offended or getting triggered at somebody else not agreeing with you. So if you're the kind of person that's going to get angry if I don't agree with your viewpoint, then just leave, because this is all about opinion, debate, and I'm trying to have a kind of analytical conversation about F1 and its drivers. So here's the poll, guys. I'm going to ask all of you now. Vettel, Alonso, and I will also be reading your chats. Because, of course, it's the whole thing this season. It's the whole package for this year. Alonso said it's funny because I think before the year began, there was very much an anti-Alonso sentiment. And also for Seb, people were saying that he should retire and just leave F1. So two drivers who have, who are champions, obviously, amongst F1's best ever in all of history. But when the year began, there were many question marks around both. I'm going to start off with Alonso, my favourite driver. He had a rocky start to the year. I mean, Bahrain, very good pace. Portimao, very good pace. But Imola, he struggled. He also struggled, I think, in Monaco massively. But since, I think it was Baku or France, where he received his kind of custom steering input, which, for those of you who don't know, that basically means that Alpine gave him a car that he felt a bit more comfortable with. Not fully, but that steering helped him to kind of adapt and adjust. And since he's got that in Baku, I think it was, or France, he scored points in every single Grand Prix, excluding Spa, which wasn't even a race. So to me, it's Alonso. And of course, Seb's had the standout podium in Baku, but despite that, Alonso is how many points ahead of... I think Alonso is 28 points or something like that. Actually, I'll check. I'll be official here, guys. I don't want to make up any stats. Alonso is all ahead of Seb in the standings, and I think that they've got pretty similar machinery. If you look at Bahrain, Imola, Alpine and Aston Martin, very similar. Portimao, and then, of course, Portimao in Spain, Alpine faster, but then Baku, Monaco, Aston Martin faster. And then if you look at Silverstone, Austria, even Monza, they've been very close. So even though you could argue one is faster, they've been pretty much identical. And Alonso is currently 23 points clear of Seb. Even if you give Seb his 18 points from Hungary and take away 2 from Alonso, Alonso is still ahead. And Z, what I would say is Seb is doing well given that his confidence was so low. Because before the year began, he was really struggling at Ferrari, and I think there was a lot of kind of criticism towards him. And frankly, it was fair. But he has come back and he has improved this year. He's been beating Stroll, and frankly, Stroll in some events has cost Seb. I mean, in Sochi, Stroll hits into Vettel. In Monza, Stroll squeezes out Seb and really costs Vettel a P9 or even a P8 finish. So yeah, I think that I would say that Seb's been good, but Alonso has been better for sure. He's been more consistent, and I think also Ocon is faster than Stroll. So for Alonso to beat Ocon is more impressive than Seb to beat Stroll. Curtis for sure, Alonso Rookie of the Year, without doubt. I mean, he's been better than Yuki and Verstappen and Schumacher for sure. For Niswi, Alonso hasn't had a better car than Ocon. That's just a lie. They've had the exact same car. Mukun, I agree, it's Alonso. Jana, I agree, Alonso. Jam, and mate, that's exactly my point. Ocon faster than Stroll, so beating Ocon is simply put more difficult than beating Stroll. But I think it's a fair debate. I'm going to end the poll now, and 35 votes, 89% saying Alonso. I was expecting it to be a bit closer, to be honest. I was expecting it to be a bit closer, to be honest. But there you go. There you go. Alonso reigning supreme. Curtis, I think, frankly, they've been close, but I think that mistakes have made them look worse than they are. I think that strategy, bad luck, has made Aston Martin seem worse than they are. But frankly, if you look at the season as a whole, they've been pretty much on par with Alpine. I would say on reflection. Next up, guys, and first of all, thank you so much for watching the stream. If you're new, please subscribe, hit the bell, so that when I do go live, you're all notified. But our next comparison, our next versus, is Leclerc against Gasly, and this one should be far more complicated, far more, I would say, contested, and will divide opinion a bit more. So, guys in chat, let me know, Gasly or Leclerc this season, who has had the better campaign? I'll just leave it in the chat. Who has had the better season? Because it's interesting, because I think both of them have had off weekends, or perhaps have left points on the table, but they've both without doubt had very good seasons overall. So I'm curious to see what people believe from this year. We'll start off with Pierre Gasly, and frankly, he's had a very good season. If you look at Pierre Gasly this season, he scored points in every round except Bahrain, bad luck with Ricciardo, Styria, bad luck with Leclerc giving him a puncture and causing him to DNF. Britain, puncture again, bad luck. Italy, DNS. Russia's the first time that really, without having a really obtuse or really severe kind of unfortunate event, that Gasly hasn't scored points. So really all year, Gasly scoring points, ultra consistent, very few mistakes. Charles Leclerc, he's had the standout moments. If you look at Monaco, pole position, Baku, pole position. But again, Leclerc has had some mistakes, he's had some blips, some moments where he's not maximised his package, or where he's perhaps let points slip. Monaco, was he unlucky that Ferrari got the engine repair wrong, and that they diagnosed the issue correctly in some regards? He was lucky in that regard, yes, but at the same time, he crashed. So that's also partly his responsibility. Styria, he lost points because of his start, and I believe that he was at fault for turning in on Gasly. He should have backed out before turning in. Italy, what happened to my Italy? Actually, no, so I'm getting confused there. Hungary, not really his fault. Russia, again, it was a tough situation, but ultimately his choice cost the team points. So it's been very, very close. I'll read down some of your comments. And Mukunda is a fun one. I agree, mate. I agree. So, Zhao, great team chat, mate. Tusha, Curtis, Jared. I'm all saying Gasly, and then Jaren says Leclerc. Bartosz, Mukund, a nerdy fool, all saying Gasly. Most people have been saying Gasly, but again, Tusha, you make a good point there. Part of this is also for Gasly in terms of his season. His teammate is a rookie in a new sport, adapting to a new car. And as people always point out that the Red Bull is built for Max, the AlphaTauri is also built for Gasly. So in that regard, Yuki's having similar struggles to, for example, Perez in terms of adaptability. So I would argue that it's a tough one. It's a tough one. Excessive Llama says, I don't think Gasly is really overperforming. And I would say that Excessive, that's a very good point. I think that overall, AlphaTauri this year have been the fifth best car easily. I would still say that McLaren and Ferrari have had a better package, but overall, they've been the fifth best car. But with that said, you know, if you look at Gasly's P4 in Holland, P6 Belgium, P5 Hungary, podium Baku, P6 Monaco, he's had some good drives. But at the same time, Leclerc, Silverstone, fantastic Grand Prix, almost winning, leading for about 50 laps in the third or really fourth best car. And he's had, of course, that pace as ever. If I were to judge it on this year, I would personally put Gasly ahead of Leclerc, just because Leclerc's made a few too many mistakes for my liking. And the poll from chat, the results are in, and you guys have said that it is Gasly. So 65% Pierre, 34% Leclerc. Interesting. And Victor, mate, very good point, and it's great to see you in chat again. And I think that relative to the car, Gasly has performed a bit better. And to be brutally harsh, and maybe a bit too harsh on Leclerc, he is, as we speak, only 9 points ahead of Ricciardo. Now, of course, he has had some bad luck, but still, Ricciardo's had not a great year, and he's only 9 points behind Leclerc. And again, that McLaren is probably a faster car overall than the Ferrari, but the point is, I feel as though Leclerc has made a few too many mistakes this year. But that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. Right, guys, our next comparison. Thank you very much for the sub. TFJ Zhao Kuranja. I'm gonna presume that's how you say your name. Thank you very much for the sub, sir. The subscription. Next up, a fun one, as Mukun said. It's a fun one, guys. Controversial, complex, divisive potentially. Who has had the better season, Checo Perez or Valtteri Bottas? Had the better season. Bottas or Perez? And this is a funny one, because I think with both drivers, you have to delve deep. You can't just look at the results. You have to look at individual results, or circumstances, reliability, strategy, context as well, which makes this a very fun one, Curtis. And Curtis, yes, we could see things getting messy here. So I'm curious to see what all of you guys think, but I'll go driver by driver. First, Valtteri Bottas. A tough start to the year. Round 1, Bahrain, not bad. Slow pit stop, probably too slow for Max or Lewis anyway, but still, decent race, P3. But then Imola, terrible pace, running in P9 when he was still in the race. And even though arguably the crash wasn't his fault, that's irrelevant. He was running P9 in a Mercedes, and Ross and Kimi behind were faster. That's poor. Portimao, Spain. That's better from him. P3, not amazing, but doing his job, beating Perez and getting good results. And of course, we'll go on to Perez. And Monaco, fantastic pace in qualifying, very unlucky in the race, extremely unlucky to not get any points. But then Baku again, terrible performance. P12, just on pure pace, really struggling to understand the car that weekend, but again, a poor drive from him. And then France, beaten by Perez, not his finest hour. In Austria, some good drives, it must be said. Britain, poor drive. His teammate Hamilton had a penalty, and he still couldn't take advantage or even come close to trying to fight for the win. And then Hungary, bad race, obviously. But then Holland, Italy, Russia, some decent performances. Even though in Russia he had no pace in the race, still. Holland, Italy, decent, and Russia, okay. Here's what I would say on Valtteri. He's had an okay year, and it's kind of what we expect from him. But the thing is, so far, okay has been enough. When comparing Valtteri and Checo, you must kind of not forget that Valtteri's been at that team for 5 years. So that makes it a lot easier for him to kind of, get kind of up to speed, and he's more comfortable in the car than Perez is, for sure. With that said, Valtteri is currently how many points clear of Checo? 31. So it's a pretty significant gap there. And even though Perez, who I'll get on to, has had bad luck, Valtteri, Monaco, very bad luck. So it's not as though Perez is the only person that has had his issues. Speaking of Perez, as John mentions in chat, and I read guys on all of your comments soon, he has had bad luck. But my issue with Perez is that, given how highly people rate him, you expect more. Even though he's had bad luck, he is 120 points behind his teammate. And again, I'll caveat that and I'll say, look, that team, that car, that second Red Bull seat, I'm not going to say it's cursed, but clearly it's tough for drivers to get up to grips with. But with that said, if Perez was a top 5 driver, I think that he would have done better. And the issue with Perez for me is that I thought that he was really finding his feet at Baku and France. And the thing is, at Baku, it wasn't just the win, but his race pace was fantastic. He could have overcut Max with a faster pit stop. Brilliant pace. France, again, it wasn't as good as at Baku, but still, decent pace, P3. But then Austria and Styria, average qualifyings, average races, mistakes, getting involved with incidents. Britain, poor qualifying. And here's the thing, guys, and here's my key point on Perez that I want to kind of convey to all of you. His race pace is good enough to get up the grid and to pass midfield cars. I.e., his race pace looks good when he's passing cars, like, say, Ricciardo or Alonso, that he should already be ahead of. But when it comes to analysing his race pace, the question is he faster than Bottas? Is he faster than Hamilton or Verstappen? Or is he close to those guys? And in my opinion, whilst he's had his moments, overall, his race pace is not as good as Valtteri's. So if I were to pick what between the two, I would say Bottas. And your votes in chat say 76% Valtteri, 24% Perez. And I think that we agree there. And Adela, I see your point. Perez has had bad luck, but at the same time, he's had some very poor performances as well. I mean, Zandvoort, even though he was unlucky with when he was sent out, that's still not good enough. That's still not a good enough result for him to be, he should be getting out of Q1 regardless of when he's sent out in the best car, in my opinion. And Ross Perez and Curtis, you make a really good point there. Perez has had the kind of flash or standout moments, but Valtti's been a bit more consistent overall. Kira, I see what you're saying, but at the same time, I think that Gasly wouldn't do much better, because I think that Red Bull seat, and here's the thing with Perez, I think we know how good he is. Obviously, that Red Bull car isn't suited to him, but with that said, I expected him to adapt better. Alonso, Sainz, Vettel, even Ricciardo have adapted better than Perez this year. So whilst Perez has excuses and has justification in some regard, he has still, in my eyes, fallen short of what I hoped and expected from him. Moving on now to our next one. This is our third to last. Ocon versus... Oh my gosh, you can't see me. You can't see me. Maybe for some of you that's a good thing. Ocon v Seb, as I adjust my webcam. Ocon versus Seb. This one should be closer than Alonso v Ocon. Ocon's had a funny season. He had a good start, but I think a large part of that is due to Alonso warming up. What I would say is, Ocon's win at Hungary wasn't given anywhere near as much, I would say, hype as, say, some other drivers' performances this year. Now, granted, the race was hyped up and there was massive reaction to him winning and to the race, but I feel as though his Hungary win has kind of gone under the carpet. Maybe because that win was somewhat circumstantial, and Curtis, I agree. It kind of feels as though Ocon's invisible, despite the fact that he won a race. What I would say is, if we're looking at Ocon compared to Alonso, the qualifying head-to-head, Ocon is losing, I think it's 8-7. But bear in mind that in the first, I think, 5 Grand Prix, Ocon outqualified Alonso 4 times. So since Baku, when Alonso's had like his custom parts, basically, his custom steering, Alonso's been faster in the race and in qualifying. But still, Ocon's been close enough. You know, he's had some good races. Ocon did a very decent job in, for example, in Belgium qualifying. Holland, decent pace. Italy, okay. Britain, decent. As far as his teammate, no, but still pretty good. Still doing okay. For Vettel, I would say, I think that if you're comparing Ocon versus Seb, Seb's beating his teammate, Ocon isn't. Now, of course, Alonso is far better than Stroll, but Vettel is leading his team, Ocon is not. And the stand-up performances, as we speak, are with Seb, and, well, actually, that's not true, because Ocon has won a race. So it's very close, guys. Has had the better season. I'll just put that in chat for you guys. The better season. This one's very close. I'm not even sure where I'd put these two, but I'll read some of your chats here. Sanskar, I think with Ocon, he's had ups and downs, but really it's been up at the start, and since Alonso's since really Baku, it's been down, 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 up in Hungary, and then an improvement maybe in some rounds, but still kind of pretty average. Vettel ups and downs as well. A tough start to the year, spinning off, of course, in round 1, hitting into Ocon, funnily enough. Spinning out in Silverstone race, and then that spin in Zandvoort. But again, the podium in Baku, that P5 in Monaco, he's had good rounds. And Broccoli, and I think in the head-to-head for the races, Stroll is beating Seb. It's a very close one. It's 50-50. I'm going to call these two equal, to be personally. I think that Ocon is losing to a better teammate than Vettel has. Vettel's beating a worse teammate than Ocon has. Vettel could be doing more, but is doing well given the context of the scenario. I think that they're both pretty... I'd say it's been pretty equal between both of them. A conscious, that's true, but I think that would be more result than performance, because in terms of... because in terms of pure performance and pace, Lance and Seb have been pretty close this year. Like, if you actually analyze qualifying and the race pace, Seb and Lance have been pretty evenly matched. It must be said, Conquist. Must be said. Kyle, first of all, it's great seeing chat, by the way. I wouldn't say that it's dog. I mean, compared to the Alpine, it's pretty much, I would say, equal. And I'll go through race by race. Imola, Bahrain, equal. Portimao, Spain, Alpine faster. Monaco, Baku, Aston Martin faster. Then France, similar. Alonso got good points. Ocon didn't. And both Astons got points. Austria, Lance was very close to Alonso in both races, so similar. Britain, Alonso and Seb were side by side before Seb spun. Stroll behind Alonso, and I think that Alonso beating Stroll is because of him and not the car. Hungary, again, Seb looked faster than Ocon. Pretty similar. Belgium, same thing. Holland, Italy, Holland, Alpine maybe, but Italy, Russia. I mean, I think that you can see what I'm saying here, guys. Overall, they've been pretty much equal. So I think it's a fair kind of comparison to make. I'm going to end the poll here, guys. And the poll, according to you guys, is mainly in Seb's favour. And I think that's fair. To be fair, I think it's pretty close. The aim and Pirelli, I'd agree. It's been a pretty year for Seb. It's been not terrible, not amazing, just similar to Ocon, even though he's won in terms of performances. It's been a pretty year for Ocon. But yeah, I would say that it's pretty even between those two. By the way, guys, thank you so much for watching me so far. We've got one or two more. And of course, we have the Hamilton Vettel Verstappen one. That will be fun. But we have one more. Please, guys, if you need to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell because I'll be going live every day. And if you have any video ideas, then please in the comments or just on Instagram or Twitter, let me know and give me as my stream reconnects. Sorry about that, guys. My next comparison is, as I've disappeared again, Stroll versus Kimi. Another interesting one. So guys in chat, let me know your thoughts here, your reasonings, who you'd rank where. It's a tough one, this one. I think it's interesting because I think both drivers have got areas to improve, but they've also had strong moments. I'll start with Kimi. Kimi, to me, is very much a case of so close but so far. I feel as though if Kimi qualified better, he'd have way more points. Because ultimately, yes, the Alpha isn't the best car, but I feel as though we've seen in many Grand Prix, whether it's even in Sochi, where even prior to the rain, Kimi was fighting for points. Even Britain, terrible qualifying for Kimi, but he was in the points briefly and he was fighting for P10 despite qualifying really poorly. Austria, Kimi, a fantastic pace in the race. So the point is, Bahrain again. So the point is, even though that the Alfa Romeo isn't the best car on the grid, I feel as though both Raikkonen and both Giovinazzi have had weaknesses, and both of them could have performed better with that car. So I think that even though, yes, strategy and maybe some bad luck has influenced them, I think that Kimi has more on the table this year. I feel as though Kimi could have done more. But the thing is, even though his qualifying hasn't been great, his race pace is there. And frankly, in Grand Prix like Hungary, where he could have got more points, Alfa Romeo basically screwed him over with poor pit stops and a poor release that I think interfered with his race. So I think it's tough to say. Lance Stroll, a very much an iffy kind of up and down year. Very, very hard to judge for Lance Stroll, in my opinion. He has shown... Curtis, guys, is the stream back? Let me know if this stream's back working again. Hopefully it is. Hopefully you're all working. And in chat, mate, you make it... That's an amazing point there, Curtis. Stroll has had some bad luck. Kyle, and to be fair, that's a good point. The question is, what is the gap between the Alfa Romeo and the Aston Martin? In my eyes, the Alfa Romeo isn't actually too bad of a car, and I feel as though with better drivers, they could have got more points. Stroll's had some bad luck, and Baku, of course, the tyre blur, but at the same time, I feel as though, having been at the team for so long, I was expecting a little bit more from him. So I think that two drivers that have been pretty okay, but nothing, not amazing, not terrible. So, I'm not sure. You guys voting in chat, 20 votes. Thank you, by the way, so much for commenting and voting. 65% saying Stroll, 35% saying Kimi. I'm gonna say it's hard to say. It's again really equal between those two. But gun to my head, if I were forced to pick, I'd probably go towards Lance, just because I feel as though Raikkonen's Kimi, just because Raikkonen's race pace to me is sometimes Kimi's race pace looks better than his qualifying pace. Purely because he qualifies so badly. I feel as though if he qualified better, it would be a more of a debate. But I think overall Lance has been better. Finizwi, you've had kind of bad vibes all stream, not gonna lie. Vettel agenda stinks. I think that's pretty fair. I didn't hate on him, I just gave my opinion. In the Ocon comparison, I said that he was equal to Ocon. Finizwi, if you could give an actual argument rather than just saying that my agenda stinks, that would be interesting. But if you're gonna say that I have an agenda, other rather than actually giving a critique or an actual valid point, then yeah, then that would be good, I think. Right, our final one. Hamilton versus Verstappen, the very controversial one. The one which ends friendships, and the one which on Twitter leads to well, insanity really. Let's go one at a time. I'll start with Max Verstappen. Max has had a pretty fantastic year. I think that goes without saying. I mean, in terms of consistency, if you look at his results, it's very, very, very hard to find any terrible ones from him. P2 Bahrain, a race that arguably he should have won, but still P2 good points. Imola, P1, he did the business. Portimao, Spain, P2. Then he wins at Monaco. Baku, terrible luck, but then France and with Austria races he wins. Britain, DNF, unlucky. Hungary, 9th place, unlucky. Belgium, Holland, P1. Italy, DNF, that one's a bit more questionable. And then Russia, P2. In terms of just pure performance, he's been pretty rock solid this year. Pretty rock solid. Lewis has had a good year, but he has made a few mistakes. I think that if you look at, for example, Monaco, poor pace. Valtteri was proactive on setup. Hamilton was, I think, a bit complacent in that regard. So a poor weekend for Lewis at Monaco, where he lost a lot of points. Baku, a terrible race for Lewis, even though it was unlucky. That's a terrible mistake. That cost him really 25 points. Britain, I think, to be fair, wasn't racing this, but even in the the Austria races, points dropped. So I think that this year, Max has been better than Lewis overall. And your votes agree with me. 88% saying Max, 12% saying Lewis. Sansa, and look, I don't want to say that Hamilton's only winning because of luck, because that's not entirely true. But realistically, Kyle, I agree. Max has been pretty much on par. I would argue that the Mercedes and Red Bulls are pretty much equal. And look, you could argue that the Merc is faster or that the Red Bull's faster, but ultimately, I don't think it matters because, frankly, they're close enough that the difference is going to be down to the driver. You're never going to have two perfectly equal cars. Even if they're in different teams, nobody's going to agree on whose car is equal. But you can see that from an objective standpoint, they're very, very close. So from there, you see, okay, strategy, reliability, driver skill, those kinds of things make the difference. I would say, Terran, I agree, it's been Max. And Broccoli, I mean, I said that a lot, mate. Hamilton's not had a bad year, but I just feel as though Max has been a bit more consistent this year. Fewer mistakes, but as I've said before, we've still got 8 rounds this year. Is 8 rounds? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rounds this year. There's still plenty of points on the board, plenty of mistakes to be made, plenty of good drives to be had. So we'll see how the year develops, but I would say that for now, it's been Max who's been on top. Right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all of you in chat. Kyle, Ayman, Sanxa, Curtis, Ompa, Broccoli Town, you're all legends. Thank you so much. I will live again tomorrow, as per usual, so do stay tuned for that. Enjoy yourselves, look after yourselves, and I'll see you guys next time. So take care, and adios.